What if I told you that one of the most controversial business books ever written contains negotiation secrets that built billion-dollar empires? Today, we're diving deep into Donald Trump's 1987 masterpiece, The Art of the Deal, a book that didn't just chronicle real estate victories, but laid out a blueprint for aggressive negotiation that would later propel its author to the presidency. Whether you love him or hate him, you cannot ignore the business principles that transformed a young real estate developer into one of America's most recognizable figures. This isn't your typical feel-good business book filled with motivational quotes and abstract theories. The Art of the Deal is raw, unfiltered, and brutally honest about what it takes to succeed in high-stakes negotiations. Trump doesn't sugarcoat the ruthless world of Manhattan real estate, where millions of dollars hang in the balance with every handshake and every calculated risk. What makes this book particularly fascinating is its timing. Written at the height of Trump's initial success, before bankruptcies, before reality TV, before politics, this captures the pure essence of his business philosophy when he was hungry, focused, and building his empire deal by deal. The strategies revealed in these pages aren't just theoretical concepts, they're battle-tested methods that secured some of the most valuable real estate in the world. But here's what most people miss about this book. It's not just about real estate or even business, it's about human psychology, power dynamics, and the art of persuasion. The principles Trump outlines can be applied to any negotiation, from salary discussions to major business mergers. The question isn't whether you agree with Trump's personality, it's whether you can extract valuable lessons from someone who undeniably knows how to get what he wants. The Art of the Deal takes readers inside Trump's world during his most formative business years, chronicling his rise from working in his father's modest Brooklyn real estate company to becoming a Manhattan mogul. The book is structured as both memoir and business manual, weaving together personal anecdotes with practical negotiation strategies that Trump claims made him successful. The narrative follows Trump through several major deals that defined his career, including his transformation of the decrepit Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt, his acquisition of 200 Central Park South, and his ambitious plans for Trump Tower. Each deal serves as a case study in Trump's negotiation philosophy, revealing how he leveraged relationships, manipulated media coverage, and exploited weaknesses in his opponent's positions. Throughout the book, Trump emphasizes that successful deal-making isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about understanding human nature and knowing how to motivate people to give you what you want. He argues that most people are driven by ego, fear, and greed, and that skilled negotiators learn to appeal to these fundamental motivations. The book also reveals Trump's obsession with public perception and media manipulation. He describes how he cultivated relationships with journalists and used publicity as a weapon in negotiations, often creating artificial urgency or competition for his properties. This media strategy became a crucial component of his business model, helping him secure better deals and command higher prices. Trump's writing style is conversational and boastful, filled with superlatives and self-congratulation. He presents himself as a master deal-maker who rarely loses, though he occasionally admits to mistakes and setbacks. The book reflects the excessive confidence of the 1980s business world, where aggressive tactics and flashy displays of wealth were celebrated rather than criticized. The transformation of the Commodore Hotel represents Trump's first major Manhattan triumph and establishes the template for his future success. When Trump discovered that the aging Commodore Hotel near Grand Central Station was struggling financially, he saw an opportunity that others missed. The building was in terrible condition, but its location was prime real estate. Trump negotiated a complex deal involving tax abatements from the city, a partnership with Hyatt Hotels, and creative financing that required minimal upfront capital from his own pocket. The key was convincing city officials that renovating the hotel would revitalize the entire neighborhood, while simultaneously persuading Hyatt that he could deliver on his promises. Trump's ability to juggle multiple stakeholders and present different visions to different parties proved crucial to closing this deal. The acquisition of 200 Central Park South demonstrates Trump's willingness to engage in lengthy, complex negotiations to secure premium properties. This deal involved purchasing a rent-controlled apartment building with the intention of converting it to luxury condominiums. Trump faced significant opposition from existing tenants and housing advocates, but he persisted through years of legal battles and political pressure. The case illustrates his belief that persistence and psychological warfare often matter more than initial negotiating position. Trump used media coverage to pressure opponents and create public narratives that favoured his position, showing how publicity can become a negotiating tool. Trump Tower's development showcases his talent for maximising value through creative deal, structuring and luxury positioning. Rather than simply building another office building, Trump envisioned a mixed-use development that would command premium prices for both commercial and residential space. He negotiated with Tiffany & Co. to maintain their ground floor presence, using their prestigious brand to enhance the building's overall appeal. The deal required coordinating with multiple parties including the city planning department, construction companies and luxury retailers. Trump's insistence on using expensive materials and creating an opulent atmosphere demonstrated his understanding that perceived value often matters more than actual costs. The Atlantic City casino ventures reveal both Trump's ambition and his willingness to enter unfamiliar markets when he sensed opportunity. Trump had no prior experience in the gambling industry, but he recognised that Atlantic City's legalisation of casino gambling created massive profit potential. He negotiated deals for multiple properties, including the Trump Taj Mahal, which he promoted as the world's largest casino. These deals required navigating complex regulatory environments, securing massive financing, and competing with established casino operators. Trump's approach was to overwhelm competitors with superior marketing and luxury amenities, rather than relying solely on gaming revenue. The airline acquisition attempt demonstrates Trump's belief that deal-making skills can transfer across industries. When Eastern Airlines was struggling financially, Trump saw an opportunity to acquire their shuttle service and rebrand it as Trump Shuttle. He negotiated a complex deal involving aircraft leases, route rights, and personnel agreements. Though the venture ultimately failed, it shows Trump's confidence in his ability to improve any business through better management and marketing. The deal also reveals his passion of using his personal brand as a key asset in negotiations. The Manhattan real estate market manipulation illustrates Trump's sophisticated understanding of supply and demand dynamics. Rather than simply buying and selling properties, Trump often created artificial scarcity or competition to drive up prices. He would announce plans for major developments to influence surrounding property values, sometimes without firm commitments to proceed. This strategy required careful timing and media management to create the impression of inevitable success. Trump's ability to influence market perceptions through strategic announcements became a crucial component of his wealth-building strategy. The relationship building with power brokers reveals Trump's recognition that successful deal-making depends on personal connections and mutual benefit. Throughout the book, Trump describes cultivating relationships with mayors, governors, bankers, and other influential figures who could facilitate his deals. He understood that these relationships required ongoing maintenance and reciprocal favours. Trump's approach was to position himself as someone who could deliver results for political allies while advancing his own interest. This network became increasingly valuable as his deals grew larger and more complex. The media strategy development shows Trump's early recognition of publicity as a business tool. He describes learning to work with journalists to generate favourable coverage for his projects and himself personally. Trump realised that media attention could create psychological pressure in negotiations and enhance the perceived value of his properties. He developed techniques for controlling interviews and steering conversations toward topics that favoured his interests. This media savvy became integral to his negotiating approach and personal brand development. The principle of thinking bigger than your competition creates psychological advantages that extend far beyond the immediate negotiation. Trump consistently advocated for setting ambitious goals that others considered unrealistic, arguing that bold visions attract better partners and command more respect. When negotiating, he would often propose projects or prices that seemed excessive, knowing that even partial success would exceed conventional expectations. This approach forces opponents to adjust their own thinking upward and creates room for compromise that still favours the ambitious negotiator. The psychological impact of big thinking extends to team building and public perception, as people are naturally drawn to leaders who demonstrate confidence in major undertakings. The strategic use of time pressure and artificial deadlines can accelerate decision-making in your favour. Trump frequently created urgency around his deals by suggesting that opportunities were limited or that competitors were waiting. This technique works because most people prefer to avoid missing out on potentially valuable opportunities, even when the urgency is largely artificial. The key is making the time pressure feel legitimate and unavoidable rather than obviously manipulative. Successful implementation requires having backup plans and being genuinely prepared to walk away if your terms aren't met. This creates credibility for your deadlines and prevents opponents from calling your bluff. The power of positioning yourself as the solution to someone else's problem transforms negotiations from adversarial to collaborative. Rather than simply demanding what you want, Trump would identify genuine challenges facing his negotiating partners and demonstrate how his proposals could address those issues. This approach works because it shifts the focus from competing interests to mutual benefit. When city officials needed economic development, Trump positioned his projects as job creation and tax revenue generators. When hotel chains needed prime locations, he presented himself as the developer who could deliver prestigious properties. This positioning makes it easier for opponents to justify saying yes to your proposals. The importance of maintaining multiple options simultaneously prevents you from becoming too dependent on any single deal. Trump consistently pursued several opportunities at once, which gave him genuine alternatives if any particular negotiation failed. This approach provides both psychological confidence and practical leverage, as you can truthfully claim to have other options. The key is ensuring that your alternatives are real and viable, rather than merely theoretical. This requires ongoing relationship building and opportunity development, even when you're focused on specific deals. Having genuine alternatives also allows you to take calculated risks and walk away from unfavourable terms. The strategic revelation and concealment of information can shift negotiating dynamics in your favour. Trump was selective about what information he shared and when he shared it, often revealing details that made his position appear stronger while concealing potential weaknesses. This technique requires deep preparation and understanding of what information matters most to your negotiating partners. The timing of revelations can be as important as the content itself, as strategic disclosure can create momentum or break deadlocks. However, this approach requires careful balance to avoid appearing deceptive or unreliable, which could damage future negotiations. The value of persistence combined with strategic flexibility allows you to adapt your approach without abandoning your core objectives. Trump would often modify his tactics or terms while maintaining focus on his ultimate goals. This meant being willing to accept different deal structures or timelines if they achieve the same fundamental results. The key is distinguishing between your essential requirements and your preferred methods for achieving them. This flexibility often reveals creative solutions that satisfy both parties while still advancing your interests. Persistence without flexibility can lead to deadlocks, while flexibility without persistence can result in abandoning winnable positions. The psychological impact of personal branding and reputation management extends far beyond marketing into negotiation effectiveness. Trump understood that his personal reputation for success made counterparts more likely to believe his claims and accept his proposals. This reputation effect works because people prefer to associate with winners and fear missing opportunities with successful individuals. Building this reputation requires consistent delivery on promises and strategic publicity about your successes. The reputation must be based on genuine achievements rather than empty promotion, as credibility is easily damaged by failed commitments. The technique of anchoring negotiations with extreme initial positions creates room for favourable compromises. Trump would often begin negotiations with proposals that seemed unreasonably favourable to his position, knowing that the eventual compromise would still be advantageous. This works because initial positions tend to influence the entire negotiation range, even when they're obviously extreme. The key is making your anchor position seem at least potentially reasonable rather than completely ridiculous. This requires understanding your opponent's perspective and boundaries while pushing those boundaries in your favour. The strategic use of emotion and personal connection can overcome purely logical objections to your proposals. Trump recognised that people make decisions based on feelings as much as facts, and he learned to appeal to emotions like pride, fear, and ambition. This might involve complimenting someone's vision, expressing concern about their challenges, or appealing to their desire for recognition. The emotional connection must feel genuine and relevant to the negotiation rather than obviously manipulative. This approach works because it addresses the human motivations behind business decisions rather than treating negotiations as purely analytical exercises. The importance of follow-through and relationship maintenance ensures that current deals lead to future opportunities. Trump emphasized staying in contact with business partners and maintaining positive relationships even after deals were completed. This approach creates a network of people who are willing to bring you future opportunities or provide favorable references. The key is providing ongoing value to your network rather than only contacting people when you need something. This might involve sharing information, making introductions, or supporting their initiatives. Strong relationships also provide credibility and access that can be crucial for larger deals. The Art of the Deal remains one of the most influential business books of the 1980s, not because it presents revolutionary new concepts, but because it provides unfiltered insight into the mindset of a successful dealmaker. Trump's willingness to share his actual thought processes, including his calculations about human psychology and power dynamics, offers readers a rare glimpse into high-stakes negotiation reality. The book's enduring relevance stems from its focus on fundamental human nature rather than temporary business trends. The principles outlined in this book have clearly proven their effectiveness, as evidenced by Trump's continued success in various fields, including real estate, entertainment, and politics. Whether you admire or criticize Trump's methods, the results speak for themselves. The negotiation strategies he describes have been tested in some of the most competitive environments imaginable, from Manhattan real estate to presidential campaigns. This real-world validation gives the book credibility that purely theoretical works often lack. However, readers should approach this book with awareness of its limitations and context. Trump's aggressive style and self-promotional tendencies may not suit every personality or situation. The book reflects the business culture of the 1980s, when certain tactics were more acceptable than they might be today. Modern readers need to adapt these principles to contemporary ethical standards and business practices while extracting the timeless insights about human psychology and negotiation dynamics. The true value of The Art of the Deal lies not in copying Trump's exact methods, but in understanding the underlying principles that made him successful. The book demonstrates that effective negotiation is ultimately about understanding people, creating value for all parties, and having the confidence to pursue ambitious goals. These lessons remain relevant regardless of your opinion about Trump himself, making this book a valuable resource for anyone serious about improving their negotiation skills and business success.